Oh, hello, friends. Welcome to a last minute live stream with myself and my good friend Bones. Now, if you're watching over on YouTube or anywhere, actually, you will see not us. Because what is a going nerdy live stream without some technical difficulties? Bones, how are you? How are you doing today, Bones? Oh crap, did I lose him? Oh crap, I lost Bones. Just like that. Ugh. Man, it is always wonderful when difficulties.
There we go.
Okay. All right. Okay. We can get started. Excellent.
Okay.
Awesome. Because again, what is a going nerdy live stream without severe technical difficulties? So, ladies and gentlemen, tonight we are going to be reviewing the last two episodes, the first two episodes of Ahsoka. Now, our goal tonight is simply to converse, discuss, give our thoughts. There's been a lot in the news, a lot to review. I am very excited to discuss everything that we're going to be talking about tonight. And so, if you loved Ahsoka, if you didn't like it, we want to hear your opinion, right? This is a safe place, right, Bones?
Sure.
We won't trash you, right?
Nope. I might disagree with you, but we're not gonna hate you. I love all Star Wars fans.
Exactly. We may disagree with you, but we don't hate. So let's just start real briefly with our thoughts. Bones, what did you just overall, without diving in, what were your first thoughts when you sat down to watch this?
Overall, it was good. A little drawn out at times, but still, I mean, it's one of the best series I've seen so far in the first two episodes. So, um, I'm happy with it.
Yeah, amen. Like, are there things that are problematic? Absolutely, there are. Are there things that probably could have been done better? Yeah, sure. Overall, I think this is a solid beginning, a solid start to the show. Now, let's just jump right into it. One of the things that earlier critics talked about was the pacing. And in the very first episode, there were a lot of like drawn out shots. There were a lot of moments where like Ahsoka's kind of thinking or just walking or just kind of like standing around. What did you like? What did you think of the pacing as far as these two episodes go?
I have to say that it stood out to me as well. They seemed like they were really, really long episodes, and and they also talked a lot. They were building up kind of this thing with her and Sabine, and I think a lot of people agree. Like we didn't know it was like we missed a chapter or something, right? We missed this part, and so they're trying to catch us up on that. And I understand that, right? And they only have two episodes to do that. And so I think they did a good job of it, but yeah, it kind of slogged on a little bit. And there was even some lightsaber battles, and it still felt kind of sluggish too. But I mean, I'll touch into that more when we get more into it. But
yeah, no, I'm right there with you. Like there were some the opening scene or one of the opening scenes where Ahsoka's at the Night Sister Temple, which was a cool place to visit. I mean, we've seen Sith temples, we've seen Jedi temples. This is the first of a Night Sister temple that we've seen, and so I thought was pretty neat to see that. But like as we're seeing this Night Sister temple, she's kind of like walking around and she's turning things and being real meticulous about stuff. But I can totally understand why people would say that this is a little, I don't know, that it is a little slow. Now, to me, one of the things that I actually appreciated about that slowness was it was reminiscent of video games. If you've played Jedi Fallen Order, Jedi Survivor, it's very puzzle driven. Yeah. And to see Sabine go through some of that was kind of a nod to different areas of the universe, different areas of the fandom, in my opinion.
I kind of got like a nod to Indiana Jones too.
Yeah,
I kind of had that feeling. in that scene. One of the coolest scenes in the entire 2 episodes.
Yeah, I tell you, like when I was watching the trailers for it and I saw that come out, I was like, okay, this is really cool. And so I I took some moments and I took some time and I'm like, all right, what am I gonna see? What's going on here? Um, and so like I'm really liking the time they spend uh building the storyline so far. And so I think it's exciting to me. It is to see kind of like them slowly moving into it. I have
Real quick,
go.
you know what was weird? I also felt a sense of progression in the Star Wars timeline, because we've got a lot of shows recently that aren't progressing it. They kind of go back, or they're happening during a certain past event
Hmm.
where I don't know when. What do you think? Do you think this and Mando season 3 was taking place at the same time? I would
I
say.
I think this might be around. I don't think season 3. I don't think we're seeing season 3. I think this is um maybe season 2, at most season 2. But
Maybe it'll take place amongst both of them.
and it could.
I don't know if there's any. I don't know if there's any time jumps or anything,
It
but
could.
but still, getting a feeling of progression towards. I guess it's going towards the sequels, but if you don't count that, it's kind of the farthest in the timeline we've ever been, and I have to keep stopping and telling myself that, and it's just kind of neat to know that too.
Yeah.
But
So like that's one of the things that I'm curious about this. One of the in the first episode, as they're building all of this, General is or not General Governor Azadi, the Mr. Krabs, is he's the one who's the governor, right? Um, he mentions that it's only been a few years since the the fall of the Empire, but then Ahsoka and Sabine have been training together for a number of years. So, but that's never specifically pointed out, like which how long have they been training together? How long was the master apprentice? Were these two hard-headed women able to work together for a long time, or was it for a short time, or what? You know,
yeah, yeah.
um, so it's interesting to see. Uh, it's interesting to see this, to see how it plays out. I'm curious though, because I haven't checked on the timeline. I haven't checked to see how connected or how closely one relates to the other.
Yeah, and then you got to think about like whenever she was on that planet with Luke during Book of Boba
Mhm.
as well. So I am curious as how is it all in sequential order? You know what I'm saying? Or I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah.
And Mando was so self-contained that they could put that anywhere, in the timeline, and it wouldn't really change anything.
Yeah, I 100% agree. Um, it is, and it can be a lot of different. It can be a lot of different places, different times. Um, I'm just really curious to know how much time has gone by, right? Where this does fall, because
And you
in
got to
my
think Sabine has long hair, so that I don't know how long that would take for her to grow that out.
yeah,
Um, but that's 3 or 4 years probably
yeah.
since you last saw her.
Well, and one of the things that people have said, they're like, well, Sabine, at the end of Rebels, we see Ahsoka the White, and we see Sabine with little hair or short hair. But then now we see Ahsoka the Gray and a long haired Sabine, and I don't think that it's like one replacing the other. I think that Sabine and I think this is shortly after. I think there were two scenes that were like this, right? The first time they went out to go find Ezra and Thrawn, and they came back empty-handed. That's what I'm thinking happened. Now it's possible that this is not that didn't happen, and this is replacing what we saw in the cartoons. It's very possible and potentially even likely, but um, I don't know. Like I don't know how this is going to play out, or how this will play out, because um as far as the timeline goes, because it's not specific. We don't have a specific time, right? And
Okay,
there's
well,
nothing. Go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, I didn't mean. Go ahead, buddy.
Well, I was gonna say there's nothing that we've seen in the storyline that can say, oh, well, this is where that happened. You know, they haven't
Yeah.
mentioned anything in passing. They haven't said, oh, well, Inferno Squad is doing this, or Alphabet Squadron is doing that, or you know, the new Republic Senate is going through all of these things, right? Nothing so far um, has given us any of that detail, right? So I'm just curious to see where it goes from here, right? As far as timeline goes, and right between episode 1 and 2, I wonder how much time passed. It feels.
I wonder if that's on purpose. I wonder
I
if we're not supposed to know what time it's in, because maybe that's going to come into play here in the next few episodes.
Yeah, there's something that we heard from Morgan Elsbeth about not patience, but about Thrawn calling from her from time and space. So and we know that, or we assume, I think, and probably rightfully so, that we're going to see the world between worlds and different stuff. So I'm wondering if that's why we haven't, I don't know, gotten a specific time frame yet, because we don't know, and we're not going to know just yet.
And maybe they'll do like a pull of Westworld on us, and our mind will be blown, and we'll have to go back and watch the whole thing. I mean, I hope they do something awesome like that. I hope this does end up blowing our minds, but maybe
yeah,
it won't.
I mean,
I don't know.
100%, 100%. I mean, Westworld. For those of you who don't, I won't spoil it, but like, there's a big plotline thing that becomes like this. Well, what's going on? What's going on? And then all of a sudden, like, what? In your mind is just like, that's insane, and it has to do with
so that,
time.
well, I'm saying, and it makes it so that you go back and watch the series again, or the first season, completely different than you did the first time, because that was such a big twist at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, let's move on just a little bit, and not a ton even. Day one. Okay, so I last Tuesday was a busy day for me. I waited and I waited and I waited, and I had tons of things going on. And I finally get home. It's like 9 o'clock. I told myself I'm only gonna watch Ahsoka on my big TV with my surround sound. I'm only gonna do that, and I'm gonna put my phone down. I'm going to experience Ahsoka, because to me, and I don't know if you're like this, but like when I'm binging something, I'm doing like 4 or 5 things, you know, and I'm not always spending the time I think that we should, you know, or that filmmakers want us to really engage with the text that is the film or whatever. But
yeah, I agree, 1,000%.
and so I put my phone down and I watched both episodes. And anytime someone interrupted me, I restarted, you know, depending on where I was. But like, I enjoyed it. Crap, where was I going with that?
I do the same thing all the time.
But here's the thing: I get to work the next day, and one of my principals is like, "Hey, you know, I really liked it, but like, as I was watching the first episode, and he and his kids had only seen the first episode, he's like, I was watching the first episode, I felt like there was a lot of stuff that I missed in Rebels, because I wasn't connected with Star Wars Rebels. Now, I watched it once, and that wasn't really an issue, but I'm really familiar with canon, and so like, all right, whatever." And so I went back and I just rewatched it today, and I was looking for problems. I was looking for, do you have to have watched Rebels to understand this? And I don't think so. What do you think, Bones?
I don't think so either. I love the lore of Star Wars, but I don't have the patience to dig deep like you do, and a lot of the other our mutual friends do. But I'm still intrigued by it, and what people tell me or teach me about it, I do retain and know. But so I haven't watched all of Rebels. I used to just watch it here and there. I never watched it canonically all the way through. But I knew the big plot points. I knew everything I needed to know already going into Ahsoka, so I knew it. So I say no. I think they made sure they took enough time for you to know what you need to know. If you want to know more deeper into their relationship or who these people are, you can go back and watch Rebels. Um, and maybe you should, but I already know who Ezra was because I was around when this show came out, and
Yeah.
every time a new season came out, you know what I mean. So just while it was out, I just knew what was going on. I would
Yeah.
hear spoilers if I didn't necessarily watch it. So, but that's not necessarily true for everybody. So
Mm-hmm.
it's hard for me to speak for those people who absolutely know zero about it. You know,
Yeah.
because I just passively know, being a Star Wars fan, who everybody is, what their role is in the universe. And so I don't know, man. That's a hard thing for me to answer for someone who doesn't know about it all.
Yeah.
I would say no, but you know, let's say we do not know who Ezra Bridger is. She's sitting there watching this heartfelt message from this guy. We have no clue who he is. Then,
Mm-hmm.
you know, so maybe not. Maybe you need to know a little bit of something.
Yeah.
Maybe they should have done. Maybe they should have done like a 5-minute recap of all the big things in Rebels right
Yeah.
in the beginning.
I think that would probably be pretty effective. I got to welcome Nev over on Twitch. Welcome, Nev. May the hate
What's
begin
up,
to
buddy?
flow, because what we're about to talk about is this. The one thing that many people are discussing and are frustrated with is plot armor. And it is the plot armor that is Sabine Wren being run through with a lightsaber and surviving. Is this a problem for you? Was this an issue? Were you like throw up your hands? You'd be like, how is she gonna survive?
I I don't know what I was watching something, and it's strange to me. It doesn't make me irate like most people,
Mm-hmm.
right? At this point, I'm just rolling my eyes and I'm trying to enjoy the show.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I saw that coming, but I was watching something or reading something, and they had a good point. Why not cut her hand off or something else
Yeah.
like that? You know what I mean? Like something that obviously you wouldn't die from, but you feel the emotional trauma from it, even as a viewer, as well as her. That's
Sure.
a lot to go through. You know, it's more personal. Whereas she should have died from that. So it looks less stupid. It's more kind of, you know, dramatic. It's the Star Wars way, right? Losing a limb. You know, I think that's just that's the problem with these shows, as far as Disney is, they don't get the details right, and that's where
Yeah.
you start losing yourself in the Star Wars world. Is there's just there's things that take you out of the world. Whereas with the the prequels and the original ones, you get sucked in and you never leave until the credits hit, and you're like, you look around like, wow, that was a trip. But I mean, what do you think about it, man? Does it bother you that much?
So when I first watched the first episode, and for those of you who haven't seen it, the episode 3 airs tomorrow, so this is a spoiler. She dies. She dies. She gets stabbed at the end of the first episode. And so my thought was, the Ahsoka TV show brings Sabine Wren back just to kill her in the first episode. And I was like, that's ballsy. I was like, holy crap. You know? And then sure enough, she wakes up in the next episode. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. I mean, I didn't want her to die anyways. But there were other ways to do this. There were other ways to Nev says I'm reverberating. There were other ways to I don't know, to fix this issue. You know, you have this sister, this what do you call her? Padawan, right? Whoever the Padawan was, I forget her name. She could have
the dark
force
lady?
pushed her, you know.
Are you talking about the Sith characters? I know they're not Sith, but
Yeah,
are you talking about the Dark Jedi?
The Dark Jedi.
Yeah, Balin Skull.
Balin Skull and
I can't remember her name.
Kira Sedgwick. I'm pretty sure.
And yeah, we haven't talked about them, but yeah, there's these Dark Jedi that we know nothing about really. And that's another scene we didn't talk about. Is the opening scene, wasn't it? A real cool scene with these unknown rebel officers, and then this the ship boards their ship, and then it was just a cool scene. It's a hallway scene reminiscent of the Vader scene
Mm-hmm.
in Rogue One. It's almost like, and that's why I think there might be some like weird time travel thing, because it was like he was in Vader's place right there. I don't
So
know. It
so
was strange.
here's the, and I do want to talk about this, but I want to hold off just for a little bit
Okay.
because
Okay.
we will go back and talk about that opening scene.
Okay.
Because a lot of what we've seen is an homage to other areas of Star Wars, right?
For sure. Yep.
100%. But with this, the her name's Hati. I just looked it up and then I closed the screen. Shin Hati. So you've got Balin, Skull, and Shin Hati. Great characters, right? Really, really fascinating. But Shin doesn't use the Force during this fight at all, right?
Yeah.
She could have, right? And since we did see earlier, and again we'll talk about this in a second, since we did see earlier that kind of like reminiscent moments throughout Star Wars, specifically in the prequels, we saw a lot of moments, prequel moments, essentially, kind of like a dark mirror of sorts. And I've heard that a few times throughout these other videos that I've watched, a dark mirror of the prequel episodes. She could have done like a Count Dooku and just cut off an arm and then force pushed her against Sabine against something and knocked her back. She could have done any number of things, but she didn't, right? She went against Sabine without the Force, just the lightsabers. And I think that might actually mean something. What it means, I'm not entirely sure. Maybe she's not as Force trained, but I don't know. I mean, she could just be like an assassin with a lightsaber, right?
That's the most intriguing part about this show is these two, the Dark Jedi. I want to know more and more about them, for sure.
Yeah.
Now I want to say a little tangent. Keep what you're talking about, because I don't want to get you off thing. But I think some of the boringness that has become Disney Star Wars, and especially like with lightsabers and their fighting scenes, is if you think about Return of the Jedi or even the prequels, there was some kind of soul inside those fights. Like, think of all the one-liners Vader and Luke would say back to each other, or in A New Hope when Ben and Vader, you don't know what their past is, but just still you feel it because of what they're saying to each other. They're talking to each other and back and forth while they're fighting, And I mean, the prequels kind of lost that as well because it was mainly just choreography and they didn't really say anything.
Yeah.
And there was still no emotion. And like I said, this is a little tangent, but I wish that they would add that kind of banter in the fights and add a little history to the fights. And that's what I'm saying. That fight could have created some history between Sabine and this Dark Jedi. Once again, we don't know where the hell this is going. So maybe it's all going to make sense and do better than what we could come up with. But it would make more sense and have history for her to cut off her arm, and you know what I mean, so that if Sabine sees her again, Sabine's want to, get her. She's going to want revenge or whatever.
Yeah.
But that's just a little tangent. But go ahead with what you were saying.
No, but I think that's an interesting point because I think there is a connection, and in fact, these two characters are being set up in a kind of like a split role, right? Sabine will represent the light side. Hati Shin will represent the dark side, or Shin Hati will represent the dark side. And this is one of those questions that a lot of people are bringing up. They're like, well, does Sabine Wren have the Force? And no, she doesn't, right? She doesn't have the Force. She's not Force sensitive in the sense that she's at a Jedi level. We have a moment with Hu Yang. He's like, look, of all the Jedi that I've trained, you were possibly the weakest with the Force. It's like he's just like slapping her down, and he's not meaning to. He's using it as a teaching moment, but he's like, but that's not what your point is supposed to be, kind of a thing.
And I really like that robot too.
Yeah,
really
that's
cool.
That's the British David Tennant. I think Sir David Tennant.
Did he play Doctor Who?
Yeah, it's Doctor Who, man.
Okay, I haven't watched Doctor Who. I know it's a big thing I should get into.
I haven't watched Doctor Who, but I did watch a lot of the new DuckTales series, and
Okay. I love
um,
DuckTales.
it's amazing. And he plays Scrooge McDuck because
Oh,
he's
really? Okay.
yeah, and so it's a really interesting, I don't know, it's fun, but let's just jump back and let's talk about what this hallway scene, the beginning of the story. So the beginning of the story is set up just like episode 1, right? Ship in the going through space, 2 Jedi board, but instead of
Oh,
killing
also, I'm sorry to interrupt,
droids,
but don't forget we get somewhat of a scroll. They brought the scroll
yeah,
back. It wasn't the same as it was before, but
yeah,
it's
it
still
wasn't
somewhat of.
the edging backwards. It was just scroll,
But
right?
it's still, and I was like, they brought it back. I was like, hell yeah! Even though it wasn't the same, and it was in red, I just thought it was really neat.
Yeah, and like, but it's cool to see some of the returning moments, right? These new things, um, and so, or not new things. It's these reminiscing moments, right? The scroll, even
Yeah,
though it's not yellow, it's red,
yeah,
indicating kind of anger and fear and all that other crap.
yeah.
But when you get this opening scene, I'll be honest, it was cool, but that captain of that ship, what an idiot, you know, like, oh, you're not Jedi, and so therefore I'm gonna go down and get all bossy pants with you. I'm like, come on, dude.
Yeah.
You've got
especially if,
underlings.
especially if they're not Jedi, that's even more of a reason not to mess with them.
Yeah, if they're not Jedi, why would you have your people lined up in formation and go down there and just, oh my gosh.
There's a lot of moments like that. In this
There are a lot of moments. I was a little frustrated with that, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
But he goes down and but it's a similar scene. It's similar to the prequels. But instead of, eventually trying to escape the ship like they do in the prequel episodes, they are there to rescue Morgan Elsbeth, right? We learn that he is a Jedi, that he's not a Jedi. He's a what do you call it? Not a bounty hunter, but a paid hand, right?
Yeah.
He's renting his lightsaber skills, his whatever, out to, I don't know, birthday parties and night sisters, and
Yeah, that's what it seems to be. Yeah.
and so it'll be interesting because they take over the ship, and they're heading to this ship that they're leaving, is they're heading to Home One. Now, if I'm not mistaken, this first episode, I think it's episode 1, was actually created, or not created, directed by John Favreau. Not John Favreau, Dave Filoni. So episode
He might
1,
have
and
done,
I think
he might have done all of them.
he
I
did.
think he did most.
He didn't
Oh,
do
he did.
all of them. He only did 2 of them. And he supposedly he did number 5, right? Yeah. He did direct number 1. Number 2 was directed by Steph Green.
Oh, okay.
And number 3, I think, is Steph Green. 4, I think. 4 is director Peter Ramsey. 5 is back to Dave Filoni. So, and then it'll go on for there. But Nev says, I'm so glad I'm not missing anything good. I wouldn't say that you're not missing anything good. You're definitely missing some interesting things. Some very interesting things, in my opinion. Obviously, Nev, you're not gonna watch it, or at least wait till it's all out, and then you can binge it if you want.
But I can see Nev just rolling his eyes many, many times. But it's not, doesn't mean it's horrible either.
Yeah.
Though.
Yeah. I will say that it's interesting so far because we have this dark Jedi who's facing up against a non-Jedi, right? Ahsoka left the Order. She's made that clear a few times. And one of the things that she keeps kind of like bringing up is the concept of like, I left the Order. My master didn't finish his training, and she walked away from him, but she came back because he asked, and as a whole thing. Like, I think at this point, Ahsoka is a little bit jaded with the Jedi Order, right? And especially after her failure, because it was a failure with Sabine. Um, and again, I don't think she was necessarily teaching Sabine to become a Jedi. She was teaching Sabine to act like a Jedi, to think like a Jedi, to train like a Jedi, right? I think there's more to a Jedi than just being able to wield the Force. And I know that sounds wrong and counterproductive because the concept of a Jedi is to wield the Force. But when you think of what they do, right? So I think Sabine or Ahsoka knows that Sabine doesn't have the Force, and so she's like, "Look, I can't teach you to use the Force, but what I can teach you is to rule and to, kind of like help people in a way the Jedi would." That's what I mean by there's more to the Jedi than just the Force, because the Force.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
just like Chirrut, remember in Rogue One, I don't think he was force sensitive, was he? Or was he force sensitive?
in Rogue
I don't
One,
think he was.
no, he wasn't. Yeah.
But he kind of went by those ways though. He was kind of like a Jedi without force powers and a lightsaber, you know. So maybe they're kind of going with that kind of thing. I don't know.
Yeah. I love Grundy's comment. I'll sum it up here, but he says he's like, we'll give it some leeway because we're going to give it some leeway. The older we get, the more pedantic we get, the more we talk and nitpick everything. I'm like, yep, that's exactly what it is.
Yep.
It was, I will say, the opening scenes, a lot of the music, the shots felt very reminiscent of classic Star Wars. Now, it was classic Star Wars with a modern twist. I mean, we didn't get John Williams in there, but we got some of the score kind of like mixed in. And so I kind of like that because it still pays homage while using it for a modern storyline.
Yeah. So I saw there was, since you're talking about the score, I saw there was controversy about the song that they used when she was on the motorcycle. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
It's kind of like a Japanese song. It
Yeah.
didn't bother me, but I saw that it bothered a lot of people, and it said it didn't belong in Star Wars. But I think they composed that song for the show. Because the credits go to Ludwig van whatever the composer's name is, and some other people as well.
Yeah.
So I thought you could tell it was made for Star Wars. So
Sure.
you can't say it's not because I mean, did you watch Visions, the first
Yeah.
season of? There was one about a band, correct?
Oh yes.
So,
I've talked about that band many times. In a mirror world of Star Wars, that band actually, or the Star Wars Rebels, the crew, become a punk band, and they do their thing. And who was it? It was Run DMV and I were talking about it. We broke it down. We assigned like who would be what, who would be the drummer, who would be the lead guitarist, what would be Sabine, Ezra, everyone's role. So
That's weird. No wonder there's some kind of connection, man.
I'm telling you, there's a lot to do when you're bored. Or you're hopped up on caffeine at like 8 a.m. But it was an interesting, I will say it was interesting so far, and I've really enjoyed it. I will say it is not what no, let me phrase that. It is exactly what I thought it would be. Now, everyone started, like, all the comments, all the people that I heard were like, oh, well, this is going to be about Thrawn taking over, and this is going to be about Thrawn ruling the world. No, this is them searching for Thrawn, right? We don't necessarily know that Thrawn is the main bad guy. He isn't so far. So far, Morgan Elsbeth is the main bad guy, right? And so like the whole concept of the Night Sisters. Now, here's what's interesting to me. I wonder if what we're going to see, the whole mirror, thing, are we going to see Balin Greyjoy, Lord Balin, whatever we're calling him, Balin something, I forgot his last name already.
Skrull?
But Skrull, Balin Skrull.
Yeah.
Are we going to see Balin Skrull have a Qui-Gon Jinn moment, right? And will that push Shin Hati over the edge? So instead of Obi-Wan, right, who killed, you know, Darth Maul. Is Balin gonna die? Is Sabine gonna then? I don't know how that's gonna work out, but like, is Shin Hati gonna be then insane, and is she gonna then go to the darker side? Right? Because right now she's kind of this apprentice that we don't know. I don't know. She's definitely taking cues from her master, right? And so does that make sense? You see where I'm going with that?
No, totally. And it's funny you said that because the first episode, or maybe it was the second. By the time they were over, I was like, you know what? I bet you he dies at the end. That's what I said. They're setting him up perfectly, and this is why, because he seems like a bad guy, and then towards the end, they tell him you need to go for Ahsoka and pretty much kill her. Yeah. And he says something like how sad it is. There's not very many of us left. That he has to go hunt down one of the few Jedi because we haven't talked about this, but they reveal that I don't think she was. Maybe I'm wrong because I think they're two different ages. But he was in Order 66, right?
Yeah. Wang the robot. Hugh Wang, the robot, did say that he recognized the lightsaber, and therefore this is this former Jedi, and he disappeared during the Order 66, during the fall of the Jedi. And so we do know that he was around. Now we also know he says that, the other lightsaber, the lightsaber that she had, and it was, I don't know, he said that it was reminiscent of a Jedi lightsaber, but it wasn't, something that he recognized, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And so it'll be interesting to see where it goes. I mean, obviously, if he's the only person that's trained her, if he dies, that's going to be devastating.
I think you're right. I think you're right on the ball, and it's kind of like a Qui-Gon Jinn / Old Ben moment.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Where you see your master die and you feel one way or something about it. You're kind of going to the next level of life. You're going to have to step it up at that point.
Yeah.
No, go ahead, bud.
Well, I was going to say, and if he does die, and to be honest, I think that he should, simply to pay kind of like homage to the actor Ray Stevenson, who it was cool to see for our friend Ray at the end. That was awesome. But I think it would be cool. It would be interesting if he did die, and I think he should, because I don't want to replace the actor. I don't want an off-screen death. I want this character to die correctly. If he's brought back in a Force Ghost type thing, whatever. But you can do that with a voice and not with the actor, right? And so, I don't know. So really interesting so far. Let me jump to this. So let me finish this off real quick. This section off real quick. The whole concept of the mirror thing, right? Does this hint at more, right? We know that you had Palpatine, and then you had Maul, right? Palpatine dies, or Palpatine lives on. Maul's cut in half, but Maul was supposed to be the big baddie for the sequel trilogy, right? If Shin Hati is not cut in half but survived or something like that, will she be the big baddie for this trilogy? I still think that
who's Shin Hati? Is
the Padawan
sister?
The Padawan.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I got you now.
So I really think that what they're going to be doing is I don't know. I think they're going to be they're either making the Morgan Elsbeth out to be the main bad guy. I still am not convinced that Thrawn's going to be the main bad guy at all.
What if it's Maul? Because remember, Maul was supposed to be the original sequel, like after Return of the Jedi. Lucas wanted it to be Maul. There was no Empire. It was just an underground circuit that rose up and took over, and he was the head of it. I mean, that could be looking too far into it and thinking too much into it, but I mean, it's a theory to think about.
It's possible. actually, Maul is not possible because at this point, Maul's dead.
Oh, the Twin Sons episode. That's
Yeah.
right. I forgot about that.
Um,
Nullify that.
but the concept though, I mean, and it could be there was I just before I came on, I saw this short on YouTube, and it was like Ahsoka and Maul. What if part of this, world between world and the traveling, what if they bring back Maul? Right?
Okay. Finish up what you want to talk about with the mirror part, because I want to get to that part about the. I have a lot of questions about the world between world part.
All right. Well, let's just. I mean, that was just it. The only thing that makes me think that Thrawn is still connected, and I know this is going to give Nev a conniption if he's still listening. If you look at the sequel trilogy, and you see Palps, right? First, we know that Thrawn knew about the cloning. He knew about the cloning. In old canon, he was part of Mount Tantus. He was part of that whole project. In new canon, he's discovered the concept of Mount Tantus, or discovered the concept of cloning. But the one major thing that Thrawn was always telling Palpatine is like, you can't do Death Stars. That's no, Palps. No, that's bad. And what Thrawn wanted was a massive fleet. And so what did Palpatine have in episode 9? A giant death fleet made by, zombie, I don't know.
Yeah, that makes sense though. I see where you're going with it.
So it makes me feel like there is more of a connection, and it does give me less hope that they're going to reboot this. So I don't know.
Yeah. I don't see a reboot happening just from watching the first two.
Yeah.
I don't see it, and there's a lot of Disney tropes that'll drive us nuts that they're kind of doing. So that makes a lot of sense. And didn't he call upon the unknown regions to bring fleets in Rise of Skywalker?
Yeah.
I think that's.
I see a lot of the. I don't know. I see a lot of this stuff coming back. A lot of the. I just see a connection to the sequel trilogy. Now, maybe if Kathleen Kennedy is fired and then they're like, you know what, screw it, let's just reboot it all. I think that could work, but that's down the road. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the world between worlds. What are your questions? Let's discuss.
Okay. Well, first of all, let's start out with there's just this map this random. So I want you to tell me about this. This is a Rise of the Skywalker trope that drove me crazy. And then they're bringing it back for this. So you're telling me there's an ancient map that's telling them exactly where Thrawn is. Is that pretty much what's happening? So that makes no sense because Thrawn isn't as old as the map is. So that whole thing drove me crazy. I was like, this is just stupid and lazy.
Yes.
That's about all I got to say about that. But then, somehow, I guess Sabine steals the map, and then they steal the map from Sabine, and then they go to this thing, and they put the ball into the little, what do you call it? I don't know, little pillar thing.
Cup.
And then it creates this. Yeah, and then it creates this. What I thought in the trailer was the world between worlds, but it wasn't, right? That had nothing to do with it.
No.
So with that being said, do you think the world between worlds is even going to be part of this at all?
I think it still will. And part of the reason why I do is I think that the world between worlds is going to be the way that the light side, so Ahsoka and Sabine and whoever they end up going with, make it to this planet that Morgan Elsbeth is going to. Because Morgan Elsbeth has that whole hyperdrive system, right? She's prepared. Our people don't. Our people don't have that stuff. And so they've got to find a way to be able to make it to that other side, to make it to the other area of this galaxy, this new galaxy, actually. And so I'm curious to see where it goes, but that's what I think is going to happen. They're going to use the world between worlds to make that, I don't know, jump.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's like we said when we were starting out the video here. I don't know where it's going. And
Yeah.
maybe it could do what we're wanting it to do. Maybe it will disappoint. Maybe it'll blow our minds. But
Yeah.
um, I'm excited to see what happens. But I hope that they step it up, man. Because
Oh,
I really think I think Disney is this is their point right here. This is their last chance for anything. I as far as the fan I am, I'm hinging it on this show to keep me in. After this, I can't see it myself. If it disappoints me too much, I don't see me getting more invested into it much anymore.
and that's actually a big issue. So I've talked about this on the channel before. Nev and I have actually spoken about this quite a bit. But Disney is bleeding money right now. They cannot afford to have a flop, right? Ahsoka has to be phenomenal. It has to be a great show, or else, right? It's not a, maybe not. It has to be phenomenal in a way that we haven't seen before, and so it has to only get better from here, right?
Yeah.
The
And-
map,
and-
yeah, I don't understand that, because this essentially isn't the world between worlds. Like you said, it's a Star Forge, and the Star Forge were built by the Rakata, right? They have a huge connection to the Old Republic, but we haven't heard really much of anything about that. There's a moment in the Book of Boba that talks about that stuff, but not a lot, you know. It's really kind of an interesting kind of back and forth, right? It could be, it could be anything.
I was really disappointed to find out that it was just for them to reveal what the map was. That was it. And I was like, and I kept seeing it in the trailer, and I was like, that's the world between worlds. That's it. And now it makes me think we may not even see that in this. I mean, I don't know. We could talk about whether it will be or not all day, but I don't know. I hope there's something like that, but probably about that time.
All right, no, you're good. My wife's just coming in.
Oh no, it's okay. I got 4 kids. I've been trying to keep them quiet all night.
Push the door. Push the other side. Bottom. I put all of our supplies, our not laundry, our toiletry supplies, in the closet in my office, which I'm not allowed to call it my office. I don't know if she actually cares, to be honest. So no, yeah, the map. This is a weird issue, because like it's how does Thrawn connect to this, right? And I think the excuse, or the reason we're given, is that the map is some kind of, I don't know, Night Sister artifact that can find people. Which, I mean, wouldn't that be crazy convenient, right? If that's, if that's what it is. But I think that actually might be what it is, for the same reason that, like, we have, what do you call it? The same reason we had Sabine Wren survive was because she has plot armor, right? She can't die. Why do we have this weird map that knows where Thrawn is? Because we need to have a weird map that knows where Thrawn is, right? For story's sake.
I wish they would have just found like a Han Solo or someone who could take them to another outer rim or something more. Just anything is better than just a lazy map.
Yeah, and see, here's I think the bigger problem with what I'm seeing so far. So far, when I don't analyze the show, I like it. I really do. When I start thinking about it, when I start overanalyzing, I'm like, wait a second. Why did they do that? So, opening scene in the Night Sister Temple, right? You have the HK droids, which awesome to see them again. Awesome to see assassin droids in live action. I thought that was super dope. But then you have the HK droids commit suicide, right? Self-destruct.
Mhm.
And their goal was to find the map. If they self-destructed, they obliterate the map. And so it's like,
Which would have made more sense if they were just there guarding the place,
yeah,
you know, because
yeah,
they're ancient robots anyways. HKs go all the way back to Old Republic, so it makes sense they were there. And if they didn't want anyone getting the map, they would just blow the place up. That would make more sense
yeah.
than having them being sent. So
But that's the thing,
tiny
they were
things like that
sent.
make more sense. Yeah. Oh yeah, I knew that. Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's these little things, you know, and you
Mhm.
know, Star Wars fans, we get nitpicky, right? Because we've invested so much time, right? We've invested years of our lives and time to,
Not to mention when I'm sitting there thinking about it,
yeah,
watching reality television, I'm like, I could just be watching Star Wars if my wife would let me right now.
amen,
But I spend a lot of time thinking about what if this person did this, or
yeah,
yeah. So I agree, man. We spend a lot of time.
yeah. And so it is frustrating. It is really frustrating when that's, you know, the thing that we're kind of dealing with. Let's talk about this last thing, and I think this is an interesting one. Who is this Inquisitor?
Yep.
Who is Marok?
So yeah, they got I guess it's canon that he's the last Inquisitor,
yes,
and his name is Marok. So you're gonna have to help me with all these little pieces that fit in. But supposedly, people are saying the theory is that he is Star Killer.
yes.
And like I said, you'll have to help me with all these clues as to why people think that.
Okay, all right. So first and foremost, why do we think he's Star Killer and not just some random Inquisitor? So first and foremost, in the credits of episode 2, there's a little, you know, additional voices by, and one of the voices done for Marok is
Sam Witwer.
Sam Witwer. Thank you.
Yeah.
Is Sam Witwer. Now, Sam Witwer, in addition to being Maul, in addition to being a lot of other characters, he played the voice. One of his first characters was Starkiller. Starkiller's name is Galen Merrick, which Marok sounds similar. All right. So we don't see
he's not canon yet, so you can make his name whatever. The hell his is.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So
you can make his name whatever. Now, here's a piece that I don't hear a lot of people talking about. There is a book that came out. It's Star Wars: The Rise of the Red Blade or something like that. It talks about these two Inquisitors, how they're friends in the Jedi Order. They kind of came up together in the Jedi Order, and then one was kind of more drawn to the dark side. One kind of just was forced because of the whole Inquisitorious process. But they become Inquisitors. They become really good Inquisitors. But then Vader realizes they're in love, and he just murders them because he's Vader, and he can do whatever he wants. And it's awesome. Now, in the comics, you get, I don't know, like 2 comic books with these characters in them. It's a very small thing. But there was a book that just came out that kind of detailed this life. Now, is it a great book? It's okay. But what it does well, I think, is it shows that, one, you know, not all Jedi were satisfied with the Order. And it was more than just, you know, Qui-Gon Jinn, right? Qui-Gon Jinn was probably just the most vocal of the dissenters. And even though he was vocal about it, he wasn't going to leave the Order, right? So the concept is, you have a character who survived the Inquisitorious process. Now, we also know that in the Force Unleashed, the video games, Vader is always trying to kill Palpatine. Like, that's what he's doing, right? Every time Palpatine turns his back, Vader's trying to kill him. And he's creating these apprentices, right?
Yeah.
And essentially, if I remember if I remember Force Unleashed correctly, Vader creates Merrick, or Vader finds Merrick, kind of persuades him to the dark side, trains him in the dark side. He becomes this assassin who then infiltrates the rebel group, and so on and so forth. If you turn
He's a
good,
clone as well, right?
So in the first one, he's not. In the second one, he is. So he's the clone of the first character.
Gotcha.
And then he's raised by Palpatine, kind of a thing. So here's the other thing, right? Vader had all of these Inquisitors at his disposal. I mean, literally, he could kill him whenever he wanted to because he's Vader, right? And so he had him at his disposal. It would make sense for Vader to find an apprentice as Vader, train him, and then do his thing, right? Do the whole rule of 2 Sith, right? We know that he tried to do it with Luke, right? He's like, hey, Luke, join me. Together we'll rule the galaxy, right? Yeah. But no, like that's the thing. So people are thinking that this apprentice is the surviving apprentice of Vader. And so is he Galen Merrick because his name's Marok and whatever? And yes, Marmaduke just sounds way better. Right. So he's like, are these one and the same? Because they were voiced by Sam Witwer, people are liking this is the case. Now, having said that, we do know that that Sam Witwer did voice Marok. But all he's done so far is grunt. So it's not a real it's not a real thing. And Sam Witwer has voiced many people. And so it would make sense if it were Galen Merrick, because it would be cool. It would be another one of these cool divisions where you have the light side apprentice of Anakin Skywalker, whose Padawan didn't finish her training, and then maybe you have a dark side apprentice of Anakin Skywalker, whose Padawan didn't finish his or her training, right? Whatever. Now, here's the other thing, and here's kind of like the final nail in the coffin. Hardly anybody knew that Vader was Anakin Skywalker, right? That was a carefully guarded secret. But if Galen Merrick, Starkiller, knew about Vader, was trained by Vader, it is very possible that he could have gained that knowledge. And the reason I say that is because in one of the trailers, Balin, big bearded sexy man, is like, not everyone saw what Anakin grew to become. And in the trailer, I was always given, when I heard that, I'm given the impression that Balin knows that, what do you call it? That, that what's his face? That Vader is Anakin Skywalker. And so if that's the case, then all of the sudden, like this credence, this concept of, does he know? Is Marok Galen Merrick becomes a little more credible. Does that make sense?
For sure. No, yeah, it all makes sense for sure. Here's what I want to talk about it in a nutshell.
Yes.
Do I want Starkiller to be revealed and pretty much like you've laid it out? I would be all in for it, even in this, if they somehow figured it out. I just think it being him in that way is kind of, I don't know. I don't want him to be revealed like that.
Cheapened?
I want it to be some, yeah. And go back to the fight scene between the Inquisitor and Ahsoka. Mm-hmm. It was kind of once again, it was kind of just soulless. There was no talking or anything. It was just kind of a choreographed fight, and then we went on. He didn't do anything crazy, and I guess he's not canon. So if you want to nerf him a little bit in canon, I guess they could. But he just didn't seem like anyone who was overpowered or insane. He just acted like a regular Inquisitor.
Yeah. No, and I agree with that.
That's my only argument about it.
I agree with that. So if they bring in Galen Merrick, if they bring in Starkiller, they will have to nerf him. They will have to take this incredibly powerful Jedi and make him weaker. And I'm at a point.
Dude was pulling. Well, if you play Swugga, you would know as well. But dude's pulling Star Destroyers out of the sky.
Yeah, right. And like that's the thing, is it's like, if that's what they're doing, if they're bringing him in just to make him die at Ahsoka's hand, I feel like it could be a very dangerous path to walk, right? So Grundy over here says, I think they set this up for Starkiller by doing this episode when Vader stopped the ship from flying away in the Kenobi series. And that's very possible, because that's what we saw, right? We saw Vader pull a ship down. Not yet, sweetie. I love you too. Okay, go. They do it because they love being on camera, just like their father. But so I don't know. Like I'm excited. I'm very excited to see what this character is. I am 100% fine if this character is just a random Inquisitor, right? It's the last surviving Inquisitor. Did my mic go off?
I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
There you go. Wait, nope.
Can you hear me now?
You're gone now. No, there you go. Yes.
All right. So
you're good.
So I'm fine if this Inquisitor is just a random Inquisitor. In fact, I'm kind of hoping for that, because I don't want a character being brought in just for fan service. Now, a Starkiller and this back and forth would be kind of cool, but he can't be an Inquisitor. He has to be Starkiller, right? And so that's, I don't know. That's kind of my thought there, because I'm excited about it. I think it's a cool concept, but at the same time, there's just so much that's, I don't know. It's just potentially off in my mind if they do it wrong, and I think there's a big chance that they would do it wrong, right?
Yeah, I agree. But think about him being like Thrawn's like protection or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe cut out the part and just say that he's a clone. Maybe they breed force sensitive clones, which they've been teasing anyways for years, and just make that. Make him you made him from scratch. He's a crazy force sensitive clone, and then maybe like I said, make it like Thrawn's bodyguard or something like that.
So so the other rumor that I've heard when it comes to this is that Marmaduke is actually the clone of Luke, right? That he's in the Heir to the Empire trilogy, that's ultimately what happens. You have this character who then is respawned or recreated based off of Luke's DNA, and he's called Luke, with two U's, not just one.
I actually know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And so it's very possible that could be where this is going. And remember, this is meant to be an Heir to the Empire spin-off or remake. We don't know what it is exactly yet, but Heir to the Empire in the Mandoverse. It'll be interesting, right? It's Heir to the Empire adjacent. But this could be a Luke. What this isn't is Ezra Bridger. It can't be Ezra Bridger. I will eat my hat if it is. I don't even have a hat. I will find a hat and eat it. Maybe a nacho sombrero or something like that. But like,
okay, I want to say that I could see it being Ezra way more than any of the other options.
Really? What makes you think that?
I didn't even think about it until right now, but it just makes the most sense. We don't know where he's at. I can see them usually when the masses have an intuition of where a show's going, they're usually right. So I'm guessing there is some kind of identity that we're going to find out for him in one way or another, and that makes kind of sense. What if, I'm not saying he's a bad guy, but maybe he has no other choice, but then because maybe he's surrounded by nothing but bad people, he has no way to get home, so that's the only way he can survive is do their bidding, and maybe somehow he gets home, and maybe he'll get a chance to redeem himself. That's just me coming off my head. But.
So let me throw some knowledge at you.
Okay.
I could see him easily being a bad guy. So I don't know if you've seen these images where like Ahsoka or Ezra's looking down. He's got like that dark face and his eyes are glowing red or whatever.
Yeah.
That's actually an image from Rebels. So I think it's at season 2. It's whenever I think it's after Ahsoka's death, or his presumed death. Um, Ezra goes full dark side, right? It's right before he meets with Thrawn, or not Thrawn, Maul, and becomes like the Maul apprentice. He has that dark. He's got that dark holocron, and he's communing with the holocron to help him like get power and do some other stuff. And so, it's very possible that Ezra could connect with the dark side. Now, here's the other thing. Okay, new Thrawn. I won't talk old Thrawn because I'm, as much as I've read it and reread the Heir to the Empire trilogy. I've reread the Heir to the Empire trilogy like 3 times. The trilogy 3 times in like the last 2 years. And if you look at new canon, if you look at Thrawn, if you look at the way that his story goes, Thrawn is always trying to find talent. He's like a talent scout. He's looking for the best that he can find.
He's the Simon Cowell of Star Wars.
He is the Simon Cowell of Star Wars. 100%. And one of the things that he does is he finds these people and he's like, okay, can this person help the Chiss? Right? And he does this all the time. We saw this actually in every single book that comes up. There's a character who's brought up. Sorry, I don't know what I just heard. Who's brought up with, what do you call it? That ends up like going to the Chiss. That ends up going to to help Thrawn, right? And so he's always looking for additional people to help him, to help his people. And if Ezra and Thrawn are no longer under Imperial, right? If they're no longer under like Rebel force, or they're no longer under Imperial control, then it would make sense for the two of them to just sit and talk, right? I know that sounds like a hard thing to like kind of swallow, but like
isn't that what Thrawn's good at, is talking?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And so if he's doing that, if he has the moment and he's like, all right, look, this is who I am. This is my backstory. You can sit and listen to me, or you can try to kill me or whatever, right? But if they have this conversation, Ezra is an empath. He's someone who connects with people. We saw that with the Purrgil. We saw that with the Loth Wolves. We saw that with a number of the little spider thingies. It makes me think that if Thrawn were to come out and just be totally honest with Ezra, Ezra would be like, okay, your people are, there's a greater power here. And Ezra would have seen what the Sith can do, in his galaxy. If Thrawn gives him an opportunity, I think Ezra would totally help Thrawn. Right? Now,
I like that.
Will he do it in a dark side way? I might. I don't know. But I think it's very possible. I heard someone say this. It's very possible. And I would love to see the first time that Ezra and Sabine meet again is in a lightsaber duel. And they're fighting each other.
And that's how it gets revealed? That like the helmet gets cut off? Or,
exactly. And it could be this character. It could be Maruk. I don't think that it is. I don't want it to be. I want it to be just a random Inquisitor.
I agree.
But again, if somehow Ezra made it back and Thrawn didn't, maybe Ezra made it back and he's the one that brought back the map, and that's how we have the map to Thrawn, right?
Or maybe we think it's ancient because they went back in time and set it there so that it was there for you to come find them in the future.
Yeah, and that's the case.
We don't know what's going to happen, so that's why I'm excited to see tomorrow's episode.
Yeah, I'm stoked. A little
more insight.
I'm stoked.
Yeah.
Well, we are at 1 hour and 9 minutes, so what are your final thoughts for this?
Well, I said this earlier. It's not perfect. If I rated it out of a 10, I would give it I'd still give it an 8.
Yeah.
Like, that might be being too nice, but I think an 8's right. It feels like Star Wars. It's setting up something that I'm actually interested in. Yes, it has some stupid tropes that I'm sick of seeing every single series that
Mm-hmm.
you see anymore. But it's still the story is good enough. The characters are interesting enough. I'm not going to get into this politically, but I'm sure people are like, "Well, it's all female." That doesn't bother me at all. I
Yep.
think the characters are great. If people do it right, there's there's beloved, strong female leads everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I can name 20 of them right now. You just have to do it right. So I think they do a great job of that. They're all interesting characters. I kind of know what's to come, but I have no idea. So I'm just excited to see what happens.
Yeah, same with me. For an opening act, I think it's solid. There are some
Yeah.
things that bug me, but nothing that took me out of the moment immediately, right? And so with you, I'm giving it an 8 because
Yeah.
I think that it was solid. There were a few things that I'm like, okay, when I go back and I look at it, I'm like, maybe not. But
Yep.
overall, I thought it was good. I thought it really was. So I'm excited to see where it goes, but where it goes, I think will really make or break the show. If
Agreed.
there's an episode that just pulls me out, right? Like we had with the scientist in, was it
Yep.
Kenobi or no, Andor? The scientist in
No,
Andor.
no. It was Mando season 3
But what? Oh, that's right. That's right. It was with the scientist
Dr.
in Mando.
Pershing.
Yeah, yeah.
With Dr. Pershing.
Pershing,
Yeah,
yeah.
it was just a random episode that's
Yeah.
stuck in the middle of season 3.
Yeah, if we get one of those, it will feel weird and off. And so I hope that doesn't happen. But, I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I'm really looking forward to tomorrow's episode. I will not be able to watch it immediately. It will be a later night for me again. But I'm looking forward to it. I really, really am. So, thank you guys all for joining us. Bones, thank you, sir, for coming on and talking with us about this. I'm excited. Like, I'm stoked to see where this goes. Hopefully it continues to get better and better. But we will see. Like,
sir.
subscribe, share. Check out the links in the section below. Bones, where can people find you?
You can find me on YouTube and Twitch, Bones88, Bonez 88. I do Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes 3 or 4 times a week. Starfield comes out in 3 days. I'll be covering that, and yeah, that's about it.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you all. And this has been Thaddeus and Bones. And as always, our friends, smile and stay nerdy. Now
See you guys.